Well, Earl Nightengale, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a old-time self-help guru, a kind of motivational speaker from a long time ago. He comes up on YouTube with a deep voice that sounds like it's soaking in the nicotine of the era. You can practically see the martini and cigarette through the words he speaks. Not because he sounds drunk, and he may not even have been a smoker, but back then smoking was practically a health recommendation, so one can assume, and when you hear his voice, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I guess I'm just trying to describe a certain knowing elegance of a person who has lived through defining himself with progress and helping others to do the same. Some of these old school guys are practically biblical with their mastery and motivational force of the ideas they express, and Earl is surely one of those. A disembodied voice from another time with time's distortion, giving sage advice as relevant today as ever before. His speech, called The Strangest Secret, is the one I'd point people to as a masterclass in shifting your mind towards success. But the other night I was listening to some compilation of speeches he had given, and an idea came from one that struck me as unique, simple, and profound, and got my mind spinning towards thinking about new ways to transcend limitations. The idea is so obvious that maybe it won't strike you the same way as it struck me. Maybe you're already doing it, but I hadn't been, and am aiming to adopt it as a habit, and here it is. He said we should spend an hour a day specifically thinking of ideas towards improving our ideas surrounding our dreams. And then he said come up with 20 ideas a day towards your vision. I thought about it instantly and realized I had not ever really done that. I have always waited for ideas to come to me, but rarely had I gone out hunting for them. The closest I've come is in engaging in activity that helps ideas to flow from inspirational realms. Mostly running for me is a big one. Something about taking in endless oxygen and moving frees up the mind's old limiting beliefs, and they leave me alone for a while as new ideas pop out of nowhere. Running through the grass barefoot or down suburban streets with an old pair of Nikes. But this idea of actively seeking ideas and making a list of 20 a day, I think he suggested 5 days a week, was particularly striking. He compared our minds to gold mines filled with gold that most never actively dig for. And it's true, a single idea can set you on a course to financial freedom. It's a gold mine. And yet we tend to run from the power of our minds through endless bad habits of distraction. It's known that humans only use a small part of their potential. The idea that we only operate at 10% or so of of our capabilities is widely known, and you hear it talked about from time to time, but rarely does anyone suggest how we escape that limited fate. Imagine the progress one could simply make by getting in the habit of using the power of your mind actively towards the direction of your dreams. It's simple, yes, but do you do it? The answer for me was no. In fact, when I really considered it, the truth for me was getting a few ideas towards a vision and then plugging into a kind of belabored action and spending untold amounts of time just trying to break out of the procrastination traps I would fall into trying to take that action. With ideas that came to me from inspiration but were not too deeply considered after that point. In truth, once I had an idea or two, my focus turned to going for those and otherwise somewhat shutting down the factories of further investigation into the land of ideas unless one would magically appear on a run. Part of this makes sense, especially if we are already overwhelmed with an inability to fully take action. The last thing we want is to be overwhelmed, but when you consider ideas to be like fuel in the gas tank of motivation, you quickly see how filling those tanks up actively every day means this practice too can be a way to obliterate procrastination. For when your tank is full of the fuel of ideas, the voices of procrastination become smaller and smaller and smaller. And procrastination derives its power from standing in the way of a single idea. But what if there is a gang of ideas, an army of ideas? Imagine having 100 ideas at the end of 1 week of this practice. How would procrastination stand a chance against an army of ideas urging you on? It would be overwhelming to the power of procrastination compared to 1 or 2 ideas, which is really what I was focusing on before I heard Earl tell me of the gold mine I had direct access to. In truth, I haven't really even engaged in this practice as of yet, but I intend to, and I wanted to share that motivation. I've started a list, and today I will make a list of 20 just to see if I can do it. Even the idea of 20 ideas illustrates the point. It's another idea that urges action. Imagine an army of those. And then try to sit through a rerun of Friends or Seinfeld or endlessly scrolling TikTok or YouTube. You can't do that when there's an army marching in the rain of your dreams. You just gotta go for it. So let's go for it. Keep swinging.